Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Jenna, I'm telling you to stop messing with my son's head, screamed the 60-year-old woman in the small kitchen. It seemed like the whole room could hear her screaming. I wasn't messing with him. It's his choice. Your son is a grown man, and he knows best who he wants to spend his life with. Remember, baby? The woman shifted from yelling to whispering and leaned closer to Jenna. Ben would never tie his life down with someone like you. What kind? Well, talk to the poor whispered woman with the dirty. A cheater. I'm not a cheater, quietly replied the girl. If it were any other, she would have either rolled back the passage or cried. But Jenna remained calm. She was ready for this conversation. It wasn't the first month she'd been harassed. Adrienne Roberts' mother-in-law is a bossy lady, very fond of her son Benjamin. Benjamin, a humble young man of 28, has chosen a poor girl from the outskirts of Jenna to be his bride. And he did not notify his mother. Adriana Roberts learned of Jenna's existence by chance when she once again tried to match her son for the neighbor's daughter. The combination neighbor's daughter may incorrectly conjure up associations with country life. In fact, Adriana Roberts' cottage neighbor was a regional official with whom she had been on a long friendship since her college days. Adriana Roberts herself was not the last person in the state either. Together with her husband, Noah Roberts, she founded a not insignificant company and was still actively engaged in business. Noah Roberts was the exact opposite of his wife, a humble businessman who never meddled in his son's personal life. He always quietly went about his business, only occasionally taking an interest in how Benjamin was doing. It seemed to him himself a wild idea to have to play a wedding with a bureaucrat's daughter. He believed that marriages of convenience were a thing of the past. Moreover, despite Adriana Roberts' peculiar character and her ability to make connections with the right people, the Roberts business was conducted honestly and the family alliance with an influential family. It would have been of no use to the cause. So Adriana Roberts' motivation was based solely on her outdated notions of nobility and honorable marriages. But understanding the absurdity of the situation did nothing to influence Noah Roberts over his wife. Like Benjamin, he was in a subordinate position to Adriana Roberts, and almost never argued with her friends, Roberts' relatives. At first, they wondered how such different people could get along together. But apparently that was their secret to marital happiness. Adriana Roberts' ardent temperament extinguished the rational, humble Noah Roberts. She gave their relationship energy, and he recycled it and channeled it. But while the older Roberts was able to find himself with such a wife, their son Benjamin had all sorts of difficulties growing up. Yes, and as it turned out, in a period of quite independent life. The events that took place in Ben's childhood and youth are of no interest and will cause more of a sense of embarrassment and shame for the overprotective Adriana Roberts. Benjamin took after his father in character and was sympathetic to his mother's temperament. Moreover, over time, the situation has improved. For example, Adriana Roberts did not refuse her son's idea to move, to live in a rented apartment with her own money. Although she had originally planned for Ben to live in their huge family cottage, which he inherited. Moving in, Benjamin was even excited to see if his mother realized that he had long since become an adult, but one thing made him doubt it. About once a month, Adriana Roberts unobtrusively hinted at Ben as an unmarried neighbor's daughter. Benjamin would kindly deny it and say that she was not his type. He was in no hurry to have a family. Then one day he meets Jenna, a girl from a working-class family. Lost her father early. She worked as a consultant in a clothing store that Ben frequented. The store was not in the center of town. It didn't sell high-end items. Benjamin didn't need that ostentatious glitz. He always wore what he was comfortable with. The cheapness of the store where Jenna worked speaks not only of Ben's modesty, but also of the fact that she did not fall in love with it for the money. Employees of the store understood that their customers are mostly not the richest people. Therefore, when the communication just began, and Jenna did not know about Ben's parents, she perceived him as an ordinary, modest guy. Only later did Benjamin tell her that he worked for a large parent company. Jenna, even a little embarrassed at first, But Ben did his best not to show the difference in their financial situation in any way. Their relationship progressed, and the hour of X was getting closer and closer. Sooner or later, Ben had to let his mother know that Jenna was coming into his life. He tried to delay that moment as long as possible, but one day he let it slip. That day, Adriana Roberts tried again to hint at her son's neighborhood marriage. Ben, please, listen to me again. You're not a little boy anymore. Maybe it's time to think about having a family of your own. Mom, here's the deal. If I'm really not a little boy anymore, can I decide for myself when and with whom it's time for me to start a family? Well, you know how much I worry about you. I don't want you to get taken advantage of by some girl who'll see a purse instead of you. I really understand that you want what's best for me, but look at me. Do I have it written on my forehead that I come from a rich family? You have nobility written on your forehead, son. Come on, give up your nobleman ways. I beg you. This is the 21st century, not the 19th. What's this got to do with the century? I just don't want you to have to bite your head off. Kelly Favors is not an option. Mom, how many times have we talked about this? She's not my type. How much do you know about your taste? I do. Ben started to get a little annoyed, but then he pulled himself together. How? How else would you say you know who's really your type? You'd be surprised, but I do. Ben wasn't going to tell you about Jenna on this particular day, but decided it was the right time. That Adriana Roberts was surprised. Did you find a girlfriend? I did. We've been dating for almost 6 months now. And why didn't you tell me? I was afraid of your reaction. Well, what can I say? You were right to be scared, weren't you? Who is she? Where did she come from? Ben started trying to think of a better description. She works in sales and services. I see. Saleswoman, so Adriana Roberts pretended she wasn't feeling well. Mom, what are you doing? Ben ran to get some water and handed the glass to Mom. I don't understand your reaction. Who are her parents? I don't really know. I think her dad's dead, and her mom works in a factory or something. Can you surprise me? What difference does it make? Why do you think people who weren't born with a gold spoon in their mouth are second-rate? You're probably too young to understand that, and you just can't explain it. You live in your Bardic stereotypes. Everybody's laughing at you already. What are you talking about? Ben, I'm a laughingstock. Well, Mom, Benjamin thought he was overreacting. That's not what I meant. I just think it would be better if you reconsider and accept Jenna. And I'm not going to accept anybody. Since you're such an adult, here, live your life. You don't even want to meet her? No. Although Adriana Roberts did look her son in the eye. You know, it would be better if I could see you in person who you're such a mess. That's good. You'll like her. Ben wasn't happy for long after this conversation. After a while, he got one. It's unsettling to think what if Mom agreed to meet Jenna not because she wanted to make contact, but to personally persuade Jenna. That's the attitude with him. After all, Adriana Roberts was capable of it. Benjamin's fears were not in vain. From the first meeting, Adriana Roberts tried to show Jenna where she belonged. Ben persistently asked her mother to restrain herself, and in part, she kept her promise. In front of her son, she played the role of the quiet, calm mother of the future mother-in-law. But as soon as Jenna, Adriana Roberts were alone together, the duel would begin. Usually, this didn't happen very often. Usually, the heated conversation took place over the phone. The first time Adriana Roberts called Jenna was the morning after they first met. Jenna, is that you? Who's calling? You have a bad memory for voices. It's Adriana Roberts. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize it. There's just a lot of noise outside. I'll be right home. Ben just woke up at home. Wait, don't hurry back home. I don't want Ben to find out about this conversation. So Jenna instantly tensed up. Listen to me carefully. You're not a bad girl at first glance. But remember, I'm a predator. I can see right through your intentions, and I sense that you're actually a mercenary simpleton. And I'd hate to see you around my son again. Adriana Roberts, why would you do that? I really love your son. Come on, come on. Tell me your fairy tales. You got the wrong idea. I'm asking you nicely. Leave my son alone. I'm not hitting on him. He and I have feelings for each other. And I'm not going to break up with Ben because of your whims. Oh, is that so? So I'm going to give you a good time. What do you mean? You'll find out. And make sure Ben doesn't find out about this conversation. Then Jenna, of course, was beside herself. She wanted to cry, but she couldn't. Because then Ben would get suspicious and end up fighting with her mother. And Jenna didn't want to put Ben and Adriana Roberts at odds. So they lived like this for several months. Every 2 weeks, Adriana Roberts pestered Jenna with her talk and threats. But I must say, nothing got beyond threats. Jenna thought she could theoretically come up with Adriana Roberts for her and Ben's breakup to start a rumor about a lover. Someone would set her up. To be on the safe side, Jenna began to behave more carefully, avoiding the possibility of a chance encounter. A possible casual acquaintance shut down all her social media pages. In such a siege, Jenna's nervous system was significantly out of whack, but apparently it paid off. In their relationship with Ben, they had absolute harmony, and she never waited for any action from Adriana Roberts. Sometimes Jenna wondered if Ben suspected anything. One couldn't be so naive as not to see the maximum heat between the girl she loved and her mother. But Ben was not only modest, he was an impossibly simple man. It was easy enough to pretend that everything was okay with him. He believed it. Well, or just really wanted to believe it. Jenna decided that such naivety would do her good. Her plan was just to hold out until the wedding. And there, Adriana Roberts would simply have no choice but to put up with it. And everything went according to her plan. The calls from her potential mother-in-law became much rarer, and their tone was no longer so emphatic. And then, finally, Ben proposed to Jenna. Everything happened in the classic banal way: restaurant, champagne, ring. Jenna was perfectly happy. She thought she'd won, but it wasn't. The proposal was a wake-up call for Adriana Roberts. Apparently, the woman decided that she would have no more chances to end the relationship, and she went on a spree. Then Adriana Roberts personally went to her son's rented. What do you think you've accomplished? There's not going to be a wedding. You can't stop Ben and I from being happy, Adriana Roberts. You won't. Adriana Roberts merely grinned back. She got ready. She was about to leave when the door opened and Ben walked in. Oh, Mom, hi. What are you doing here? I just came by to check on the newlyweds-to-be. Adriana Roberts' acting skills were fine. She didn't blink an eye and switched from being a mega-aggressor to a caring mother-in-law. That's great. Naive Ben rejoiced, unsuspecting. Ben, listen. Jenna began to speak. I want to tell you something. That's right, son. Jenna and I have been thinking about the best way to do the wedding. Adriana Roberts interrupted her. She realized her potential daughter-in-law was about to snap and tell Ben about her problem. So, what did you have in mind? Ben inquired. No, I wanted to talk about something else. Jenna continued. I think it would be better to call off the wedding altogether. There was an oppressive silence. Adriana Roberts was as surprised by Jenna's statement as Ben was. She really thought Jenna was going to start complaining about her, but apparently she managed to get her rival to do it after all. What? Ben interjected. I didn't hear that. No, you didn't. I don't think I'm ready to get married. Mom, did you say something to her? Ben asked angrily. No, what are you doing? What do I have to do with this? Generally, Adriana Roberts shook her head in a negative way, feigning incomprehension. Then Jenna, will you please explain yourself? What's going on? I've decided we're very different people. I have no place in your circle. What circle? Ben wondered what circle we were in. You can feel your mother's influence, can't you? Look, there is no my circle. There's only our circle, you and me, 1 for 2. We both fit into it perfectly. No, please, at least let me go. I need a break. Jenna quickly packed her things and left. She ran down the wet sidewalks, not having had time to dry from the recent rain. Yes, what Jenna had been dreading for the past few months had happened. A breakdown. A violent, hysterical, and uncompromising breakdown. For too long, she had tolerated it, feared it, kept it to herself. Just before she left, she wondered if she should tell Adriana to her face. Right in front of Ben. But then it would be a cruel blow, first of all, to Ben himself. Jenna decided not to upset the Strong family. If anything, Ben will find many more interesting girls. He won't be lonely for sure. But to endure a lifetime of attacks by Adriana Roberts, Jenna was not ready. She realized that marriage is not a panacea, and the stamp in the passport may not have any effect on the mother-in-law's behavior. That's why Jenna decided to take such a desperate step. In 20 minutes, she ran to her apartment, entered it, and lay down on the couch facing the pillow. Her mother was away in the country during the summer months, so the apartment was empty. Jenna lay on the couch, thinking of nothing. She couldn't even cry. There was no strength left for tears. After running for a while, Jenna got up, took a sedative, and went outside again. She couldn't just lie idle either. Jenna was in a state where she didn't know what you wanted. But you have to be at least somewhat active in that state. People do stupid things, sometimes the most irreparable. Who knows how that day would have ended for Jenna if a black SUV had been walking out of her driveway at the wrong signal. She turned around, looked at the driver, then at the license plate, and sighed in relief. It was Ben Noah Roberts' father's car. Jenna took her time getting into the front seat. "Hello, Noah Roberts," she said quietly. Jenna had only seen Ben's father twice in her life. He never came to see them himself. And when did Ben invite him over? At their family cottage, Noah Roberts usually worked. But hello, Jenna. Why did you say it so politely? He did, and drove forward. "Where are we going to visit you?" Jenna asked, frightened. "No, what are you talking about? That's not where I'm sending you. We're going to a nice place. I think we have a lot to talk about." Okay, Jenna thought it was Ben who asked her father to talk to her and bring her back to him. At first, she feared that Noah Roberts would think of nothing better than to just take her to the Roberts house, where the scandals with Adriana would begin again. But as it turned out, Ben's daddy decided to do subtler things. He took her to a small cafe downtown. Jenna and Noah Roberts chose a table and ordered. "I really love this place." Noah Roberts started the conversation while waiting to order. "Not at all Adriana's style. We usually prefer a little different kind of place. But you know, this is where I come when I want to be alone or talk to someone about personal things. The atmosphere is nice, not defiant." "Yes, it's very cozy," Jenna answered and looked around. "You probably think it was Ben who asked me to talk to you?" Noah Roberts cut to the chase. "No, this is my own improvisation. I just called Adriana an hour ago on a business matter, and she got excited and told me about your running away. And then I realized that I couldn't sit in the shadows anymore. You know, I always thought that adults were capable of figuring out their own relationships. You think so too, don't you?" "I do, but Adriana Roberts." Yeah, that's right." I didn't let Jenna know Roberts finish. But when another powerful person interferes in an adult relationship and moreover destroys that relationship, you need the intervention of a third person who balances the situation. So I decided to be that third person for a while. Thank you for nothing else to thank me for. I really want you to go back to Ben. Do you want that yourself? I don't want Ben's relationship with his mom to go bad. It's not that important right now. Adriana aside, would you agree to go back to Ben?" "Of course I would." "That's a good answer. Now let's think about what's stopping you from doing that. More precisely, who's stopping you? Of course, you don't like hearing everything Adriana tells you. I understand that very well. But understand, treat her with detachment. She won't do anything bad to you in terms of actual action. And in time, she'll get used to it. And then she'll fall in love. I know her psychology well. I too, at first, thought Adriana Roberts would temper her ardor. At one point, I even thought that was the case. But as soon as Ben proposed to me, it all started with renewed vigor, taking it as a final battle. She decided to concentrate all her resources and pour the maximum out on you. After the wedding, she'll calm down. In fact, I'm pretty sure she'll change her mind about you a lot sooner. I don't even know, but right now she's glad I left. And imagine me coming back. What kind of reaction would she have? I mean, she could do anything. I'm well aware of your concerns. So here's what we're gonna do. I'll have a serious talk with her. I'll try to calm her down, and I'll intervene every time she starts to piss you off. Just text me, that's all. I'll call her right away. Okay, I'm the one who has to bother you every time. Don't worry about that. I'm interested in handling the situation myself. Besides, Noah Roberts leaned over to Jenna and started whispering. I never liked those favors and their golden daughter. And since I do, of course I'll let you know. Jenna grinned. She was well aware of Adriana Roberts' intentions to pass Ben off as the neighbor's daughter. Just let's wait at least 24 hours, and then I'll call Ben tomorrow. Done. Noah Roberts asked for the bill and paid it. So Jenna, should I drop you off where? Go ahead, go ahead. I'll sit here for a while. Noah Roberts said goodbye to Jenna and left the cafe. Jenna, alone with her tea. At last, over the last day, she had some hope. Was there even one normal person in the Roberts family who understood how to solve her problem? No, Ben. Jenna thought he was normal too. Only he was too unresolute and naive. And she wanted to keep him out of conflict with his mother as much as possible. And Noah Roberts himself had offered his help, so Jenna shouldn't have worried about his relationship with his wife. Since he was the first to go to the meeting, he knew what he was doing. Jenna Roberts' musings were interrupted by a tense conversation at the next table. A customer and a waiter were arguing. I'm sorry, but is your card inappropriate? The waiter said kindly, but strictly. How not suitable. Try again. Frightened, the customer replied. I tried 3 times, does not fit. So if you have a machine, doesn't work. The machine is fine. The other cards are accepted. But wait, what should I do then? I don't have any cash. Try a wire transfer. If I could, I would have suggested it myself. I don't have internet on my phone either. You're putting me in an impossible position. I'm sorry, but in such cases we have to call the police. What, for $10? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. Those are the rules. Well, why don't I give you my passport as collateral or my phone? I'll go get the cash myself. I'm sorry, but that's not allowed. Jenna rarely allowed herself to eavesdrop on people's conversations. But here the scene unfolded too close to her, and willy-nilly she became a listener. Moreover, at one point, arguing with the waiter, the customer's voice seemed very familiar to her. Or rather, not the voice, but the intonation of such a slightly theatrical conquest. Jenna tried to remember where she might have heard these intonations, but she could not recall anything. Then she succumbed to curiosity and turned to face the conflicted table. One glance at the customer was enough. The card wasn't working for her classmate Alex James either. Jenna didn't wait for the waiter to call the police. She got up and walked over to a nearby table. Wait, don't call the police, she said quietly to the waiter. I'm paying for the young man's order that Alex James didn't immediately realize what was even going on. He frantically searched for numbers in his phone book, choosing whom to ask to bring the money. And he didn't even notice that his classmate came up to the table. Then Alex did look up and saw Jenna. Jenna, how did you happen to be here? Jenna smiled back and put her card on the machine. The classmates decided to leave this unfortunate cafe as soon as possible. Look, I don't even know how to thank you, Alex said, walking down the sidewalk with Jenna. Come on, we're not strangers after all. You better tell me how you live. Boring, I live. I work as a junior engineer at our chemical plant. What about you? I didn't go far either. I sell clothes. You see how much hope they had for us at school. You can't tell who you can and can't get your hopes up at school. It's all nonsense. And you and I didn't exactly shine. Let's face it. Well, you got that right academically. Alex grinned. Not much attention was paid to us in the curriculum, unlike the other one. Alex James immediately understood the meaning of Jenna's clarification. The point is that Alex for Jenna and Jenna for Alex. 15 years ago became our first high school love. The whole class watched their relationship develop, but evolved is too loud a word. From the outside, it seemed more like this relationship was standing still and going nowhere. Alex and Jenna knew how each other felt, but they barely did anything about it. They were too timid. No matter how much their classmates tried to push them toward each other, they didn't. The relationship was in limbo for a whole year until Jenna changed schools for family reasons. After that, she and Alex saw each other only a few times at reunions. And Alex James even tried to have some kind of communication with Jenna, but it went nowhere. In relationships, of course, we shone with our indecision. The whole class laughed at us, not laughed, but jealous, corrected Alexa's former classmate. Ah, of course I was jealous. But I think I've changed during this time. I've become much more determined with girls. And how are you doing? Getting married? No, just trading so far. But I mean, only very fast relationships so far. You haven't gotten married either? Not yet, but hopefully there will be a wedding very soon. Until a few hours ago, I doubted it. But things seem to be getting better now. So you're a wife in 5 minutes. A little upset, Alex said, and looked at Jenna. She remembered that look from high school. It seemed to her as if those 15 years didn't even exist for Alex James. It was still the same 8th grade. He still had feelings for Jenna. And she tells him that she's getting married soon. If that were the case, Alex would have the exact same look. Yes, if of course, everything is going to be okay. Is there any reason to doubt it? Well, there are some circumstances of not trusting your future husband. No, that has nothing to do with it. All right, I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm sorry, that was an unnecessary question. Give me your number. Do you think that's a good idea? Jenna asked incredulously. No, you must have misunderstood me. I'd like to wire you the money for the cafe. You paid for me. Oh, forget it. But that would be very inconvenient for me. Okay, I'll let you know. Jenna gave her number to Alex. They said goodbye and went their separate ways. Jenna went to her house. She didn't dare go back to Ben's yet. Why did she need that extra 24 hours to think about it? She didn't understand it herself, but something was keeping her from returning soon. Perhaps it was the deep trauma Adriana Roberts was systematically inflicting. If separately the outbursts of a potential mother-in-law could be tolerated and forgotten, altogether they accumulated into one great psychological trauma. Tonight's fight was the last straw, so she needed at least a night's sleep alone to recover from the incident. The only thing that surprised her a little was the silent phone. After all, Jenna thought Ben would start calling her right after she escaped. But he didn't. Even on Messenger, there were no messages from Ben. Despite the complexity of the situation, his natural modesty found a way to show itself. However, it was this particular inaction that Jenna was able to find an excuse for. She decided that at first Ben just didn't want to get under Jenna's hot hand and thought it best to wait until she cooled down a bit. And then she just called him. Noah Roberts informed Jenna's decision to come back tomorrow and asked her not to be disturbed for the next 24 hours. With those thoughts in mind, Jenna calmed down and finally solidified her decision to come back tomorrow. Everything worked out just as Jenna had intended. Even a little better. The next morning, Ben called her himself, apologized for the past incident, and asked her to come back. Jenna immediately did so. Throughout all the preparations for the wedding, to Jenna's delight, Adriana Roberts didn't make herself known at all. They called Ben occasionally, but they didn't seem to mention Jenna even in those private conversations. Apparently, Noah Roberts managed to do some serious work with her. Jenna was quietly happy about that and was busy with the wedding stuff. She was even kind of embarrassed to think that not long ago she might have deprived herself of such happiness by simply running away from Ben. It was good that the wise Noah Roberts had arrived in time. No one knows how it would have ended if Roberts, with his characteristic calmness and prudence, had not taken up the matter. The wedding was one day away. The day was Jenna's most nerve-wracking moment of preparation. The phone rang. She didn't immediately pick it up. The problems associated with an ill-fitting dress seemed far more important to her. But soon the phone rang again, and she did go to it. Adriana Roberts popped up on the screen in big letters. Jenna sighed heavily and took the call. "Hello, Jenna." "Hello," Adriana Roberts asked, not her usual voice. Usually even a greeting word she was able to give out in a special unpleasantness. But this time the tone was calm and even somewhat timid. "Yes. Adriana, hello. I would like to talk to you, but please don't be frightened. It's not at all what you think." Adriana Roberts has accurately felt Jenna's first reaction to hers. "I'd like to talk." All the previous conversations flashed before Jenna's eyes. and for a moment she had time to think it would start all over again. But if it wasn't going to be like always? No, I said it wasn't what you thought. I promise I won't say anything bad to you. I just really want to talk. I think it's better to do it before the wedding. If that's what you think, where do you want to meet? Or maybe the conversation would be over the phone. It wouldn't be the same over the phone. I'd like to meet at a coffee shop downtown. It's called Lavender. I'll call you a cab. You don't have to. I know where it is. I don't need a cab. I'll be there in an hour. I'll be there in an hour. Then I'll be waiting in an hour. Jenna was extremely surprised. This was the first time she'd ever heard Adriana Roberts' calm voice. And where had she been called? To the same place that had brought her back to normal before. Noah Roberts. Coincidences like this happen. After all, Roberts usually spends her family dinners at nice, fancy restaurants. And for moments of solitude, they chose the same humble establishment. I wonder if they guessed it themselves. An hour later, Jenna was there. Adriana Roberts was running a little late. Jenna chose the same table she and Noah Roberts sat at and began to wait. Literally 5 minutes later, Adriana Roberts walked in. "Jenna, did you pick my favorite table?" she said cheerfully and sat down across from me. "Is this where you and Noah Roberts usually hang out?" Jenna asked, as if wanting to test her hunch. "No, why? We usually vacation somewhere else. More decent places, This is where I like to hang out by myself, and I don't think he knows that." "Wow," Jenna said in amazement. She didn't know what surprised her the most. On the one hand, it was strange for her to hear that Adriana Roberts preferred a modest place for privacy. Jenna always seemed to think that Adriana Roberts was the mainstay of local and not-so-pathos. And here, speaking of more respectable places, she made a face as if she was fed up with all those expensive restaurants, and she only thinks of escaping to some humble diner. The coincidence with Noah Roberts' Jenna, on the other hand, seemed even more surprising. She had the idea that it was her husband who had told Adriana Roberts where they had talked. And that was the reason for the choice of location for tonight's meeting. But as it turned out, it really was a coincidence. Apparently, the years we've lived together somehow influence our taste and preference for non-obvious things. You must be a little surprised. Adriana Roberts seemed to read Jenna's mind. "Surely you must have thought I was such a pretentious aunt who cares more about the price tag than anything else in this world. But no, sometimes I want modesty too. You see, lately I've been thinking more and more about how bored I am with everything. Many years ago, I thought of myself as a rich diva. In fact, she never was. Still understand, a girl from a poor family, from the provinces all of a sudden gets into the circle of the golden youth. Talking about good souls and a trip to Paris will blow anyone's mind. And what will be the result? A bouquet of complexes in addition. Noah Roberts always has. He was sympathetic to it, only sometimes expressing his dislike for what was going on. Although he's much more than that. I have to love the whole manner, wearing pants. He's one of those, the golden youth. And I thought that since it was Roberts, I had to live up to it. The outfits, the house, the restaurants. Over time, I accustomed myself to everything. But if it was only in material terms. No, I wanted my loved ones to conform too. And of course, my most important loved one, Ben. I felt obligated to him, to find him the best of this life. And what does the best mean? In my warped picture of the world, of course, the richest and most precious. And then there was the neighbor's daughter growing up. But it just worked out perfectly. Only thing is, Ben takes after his father. What a fool I am. I should have followed Noah's example too. But no, I'm all about pathos. Come on, why would you do that? Jenna felt sorry for Adriana Roberts. She never thought she was capable of feeling pity for this man. But should Adriana have been a little frank, and immediately everything changed? No, you don't have to pity me. You have every right to hate me. I just want you to understand the nature of my original attitude toward you. All those complexes of rich prejudice caused a lot of rejection. When Ben told me about you, because all my ideas about the right life collapsed in an instant. The deep complexes that prevented me from accepting you turned into outright boorishness. Although, in fact, I was in the same position as you many years ago. Or maybe Adriana Roberts wondered, "What is it with you, all right?" Jenna lit up. "Yes. I was just wondering if maybe I was trying to save you with this." "I'm sorry." "What do you mean?" "Well, I just didn't want you to repeat my mistakes. On a subconscious level, you have all the same possibilities of grabbing those same complexes and becoming a petty woman like me. Although what am I looking for an excuse? You're completely different, and you'll never, luckily, be like me." "No, you're absolutely right. I too have experienced and continue to experience discomfort with wealth. And maybe if you hadn't chosen to tell your story, it would have happened all over again. It's good that you understand that. I don't know if you'll forgive me for all the tough talk we've had. I don't think I'd forgive myself. In fact, if I were you, I'd run away right away or give an ultimatum to either me or your mother." "I had that thought," Jenna grinned, "but I thought it was too harsh. By the way, about you in my shoes. How did Noah Roberts' mom receive you?" Oh, Adriana Roberts turned to the window and stared at it silently for about 15 seconds. "Let's just say it wasn't the best experience I can give you. Noah Roberts' mother was, like me, a bossy woman. Only unlike me, she had been rich all her life. I don't know how Roberts managed to make a pretty good fortune at the time. Noah's father had been a prominent party official, but that was no guarantee of success. Anyway, it doesn't matter how. But Noah's parents lived much richer than the average citizen. This really surprised me. I walked around their apartment and their summer house with my mouth open, imagining how I would have it all. I think that's normal. You don't have to know all the realities. I do. Sometimes such ignorance can lead to the most unpleasant consequences, like my lunge at you. Okay, back to your question. As you probably already guessed, Noah's mom didn't accept me either. Only she never said so openly. Then how did you know she didn't accept you? You know, there's times when you walk into a house and you just feel in your gut that you're hated. People don't have to express their hatred, just looks, intonation, that kind of thing. Especially, Noah Roberts stopped calling me in at one point. He tried to make sure his mother and I never crossed paths, and his parents didn't even come to my wedding with Noah. Noah Roberts said they had something very important to do, but I knew right away. They never accepted me into their family. Noah's mom passed away quite early in life, and we never had time to explain ourselves to her. On the other hand, you never fought with her. Did you try to calm Adriana Roberts' Jenna down in any way? Yeah, she never once raised her voice at me. But you know, sometimes it's better to have all your emotions expressed to you face to face than to have them stored somewhere deep inside. I think her early departure might have something to do with the fact that she kept it to herself all the time. Never got her emotions out in the open. Although who knows, maybe I made it all up for myself. Are you blaming yourself for your mother-in-law's early death? No, I don't blame myself directly, but I think I caused her a lot of grief, and more importantly, hidden grief. She was just very fond of Noah's, so she didn't want to say everything openly. And I must have been a bad mother, since I decided to act so rudely. In the end, it turns out you made the right choice. We did manage to have a human conversation. Explaining yourself is better than keeping it to yourself. What did you do compared to Noah's mom? I did the right thing. But what could I have driven you to? But it's okay. You didn't drive me to anything. I'm not the weakest character either, you know. Of course, I've been hurt by your quips. Well, I put up with it, except for the last time. Well, you did it wrong. You should have acted on it. I told you I didn't want to upset your relationship with Ben, so I kept quiet. And about Noah Roberts, I hardly knew him at all. Until that unexpected conversation. As it turns out, I barely knew him either. No, I mean, I knew he was a good psychologist, but to be that understanding, he built a strong business from the ground up. I was involved, of course, but more as a performer just doing what he told me from scratch. I thought you said Noah Roberts was from the Golden Youth. Yes, he was. He was building his own company. It wasn't like a lot of people bought a factory cheaply and cut money off it. He rented premises, bought equipment all by himself, with startup capital. Maybe it was easier for him than for others, but no one was bogging him down with thousands. My father almost didn't help. So what's my point? Entrepreneurs, businessmen are a special breed. I've seen a lot of them. Over the years, some are already sickening. Some are bad, some are good. But they all have something in common: grip, responsiveness, toughness. But if you look at Noah's like that from the outside, there's none of that. Not even just from the outside. At home, it's a harmless person who I would never trust to run a large company. I, by the way, am much more of an entrepreneur than he is. Adriana Roberts smiled, took a sip of coffee, and continued. But no, because he raised the company, and not just raised it, but developed it and successfully runs it to this day. How do you ask? How can one be a successful entrepreneur with such a character? I did not immediately begin to think about it. You see, when you live with a person for many years, you do not notice his characteristic features. You perceive everything as normal. But at every meeting with entrepreneurs, at every business lunch, I felt some discomfort. But I didn't like those rich guys. And with my Noah, it was always so nice, so relaxed. That's when I started noticing that he was different from the usual entrepreneurs. For a while, I forgot all about it. Different, what now? That is actually why I married him and not someone else. But with each new meeting, with each new eccentric businessman I met, I wondered again about Noah's character. And so it finally began to dawn on me. Noah Roberts has some kind of psychological skills that help solve all business issues. At first, it seemed to me that this was only a small part of his company's success. After all, many of the issues involved in negotiations were handled by me. But as time went by, I realized that Noah's quiet, humble participation was much more a part of our success than my loud, flashy negotiations. He is like a spider quietly weaving his web, graciously inviting his competitors, partners, and subordinates into that web, enveloping them, and then doing whatever he wants with them. Somehow, he manages to find weaknesses, pain points, or just the most important in any matter. Noah Roberts quietly presses on these points, and he gets the results he wants. I thought at the time that he only does this in business. In life, it is quieter than water below the grass is unpretentious. He does not demand anything. He just do not need to show their psychological skills. But it wasn't like that. Only in the last month I realized that he has been using these skills throughout our lives together. It's just that Noah Roberts was doing it so filigree that I didn't notice anything. I guess he was just happy with my hot temper. That's why he was actively engaged in arranging our relationship. Marriage is not a business. There are other processes at work there. And how did you end up noticing this? What happened in the last month? Things that hadn't happened in your entire life together. Did you happen? Adriana Roberts grinned. But Ben and I started our relationship much earlier. Yes, but all that time Noah Roberts didn't interfere. And then he decided to clean up his act. That's when I figured it out. Why did Noah Roberts decide to get involved? Oh, I don't know. It's so unlike him. Usually he's separate, and Ben's personal life is separate. I think the answer's on the surface. He just felt sorry for you. Realized you were in pain because of me. He waited and waited, and at the most decisive moment, he acted like that. What did he do besides talk to me? He had 2 conversations with me without raising his voice. He carefully explained everything. After that, I completely changed my outlook. I had never worked with a psychologist, but it seems to me that after a long therapy with professional psychologists, people experience something similar. He brought me back down to earth and explained how I looked from the outside. And in 2 conversations, Noah Roberts managed to change your personality. How do you see just that? Not really. He didn't change any identity for me. Noah Roberts helped me shed the tinsel that was hanging over my real personality. Those horrible rich man complexes, prejudices. The first conversation happened after you ran away. I don't know what it was that clicked, but that evening Noah Roberts sat down with me and bluntly told me he wanted to talk. He told me how he talked to you. What a positive girl you really are. And then he started asking simple leading questions that made me realize how stupid I was. After that, I decided to give you a break. Not calling, not writing, avoiding meetings. I thought you hated me, the kind we have now. And last night we had a second conversation. There he reminded me of our personal history about my relationship with his mother. Yesterday, I finally realized how wrong I'd been about you, and I decided that we should end this ridiculous feud before the wedding and explain to you as openly as possible what I had realized about myself not so long ago. I hope I have succeeded. And even more, I hope you'll forgive me. Of course I will. You are a very strong man. Only strong people can change so radically in such a short time. And at the same time look in the eyes and apologize. What are you talking about? Strong people don't torture daughters-in-law for so long. Did you have a reason to do that? Well, then let's leave it in the past, shall we? Although I really don't want you to repeat my mistakes. The most important thing in any marriage, and especially when it comes to any financial additions, staying true to yourself. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. I more than understand it. Good for you. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Get ready for tomorrow. A great blessing to come. Jenna said goodbye to Adriana Roberts and walked out of the cafe. It was going to rain outside again. This summer was not a good time for the people of the city with the weather. Jenna hailed a cab and sat in the back seat, leaning against the window. The cab driver, seeing the pensive expression on Jenna's face, didn't distract her with conversation. He put on some quiet radio station, and he silently drove Jenna home. Jenna really had a lot to think about. It seems like she should be driving now, bewildered by the conversation that had taken place. After all, how is it possible that Ben's mother, who had been driving her around for over a year, was not only a subtle and sensitive person, but also found the strength to apologize and explain everything to Jenna? But Jenna wasn't thinking about the sudden transformation of roles and attitudes toward her mother. It seemed to her that she had just had a conversation with a friend she had known for years. Absolutely the same feelings. She trusted Adriana Roberts completely. She did not doubt the sincerity of her every word. Everything was so casual, so relaxed, that Jenna forgot all the hardships Jenna had put her through. This woman. Someone had come in with an eraser of Jenna's memories and erased all the negative content. And now she was just driving along and enjoying the moment to enjoy it. She didn't even have to think about tomorrow's wedding. Jenna was already happy. I'm sorry, is that what you were thinking? The cab driver couldn't take it anymore and spoke to his passenger after all. Is something important coming up? Yes, you guessed it. You really are something important. Well, what can a beautiful young girl be important? A wedding. Divorce. Still a wedding. Oh, I'm particularly perceptive today. The cab driver complimented himself. Are you excited? A little? That's right. It's better to be excited beforehand. So there won't be any problems later. I, for example, was like this. The cab driver began to pour out an incredibly interesting story from his life, which Jenna stopped listening on the second sentence. It was only towards the end of the story that she came to her senses. The cab driver emotionally warned her so that you should always be on your guard, especially before a wedding. There will always be those who want to upset her. So girl, I hope that you do not repeat my mistakes and do not trust everyone at once. We're here now, by the way. The car did pull into the courtyard of the house where Ben and Jenna's apartment was located. After relaxing with the driver, Jenna went upstairs to the house. Ben wasn't home, so once again she was left alone with her thoughts. Jenna couldn't remember what the shrewd cab driver had been talking about at all, but his last words stuck in her head. Maybe she really was in a hurry to trust Adriana Roberts. What if this was some last-ditch ploy on the part of her future mother-in-law? Or rather, if her scheme succeeds, she never becomes a mother-in-law. Jenna said to herself, "Stop." She was even a little afraid of her own thoughts. Why did I get all nervous? Some cab driver said something stupid, and I didn't think twice about it, so I believed it. No, I had to calm down and not pay attention to insignificant things. It's all nerves, it's all nerves. Jenna joined herself and continued to prepare for the wedding. Once again, she needed to plan for tomorrow. She and Ben decided to forego visiting traditions along the lines of the groom shouldn't see the bride before the wedding in her dress and other classic superstitions. They decided they would go to the registry office together and then modestly go to a restaurant to celebrate with lots of guests. Ben and Jenna didn't want to. Just the parents, Jenna's mom, a few friends, and a few girlfriends. There didn't seem to be any difficulty with the organization. The only thing Jenna was worried about was whether she would make it to the beauty salon before the registry office. But a lot depended on the speed of the master there, not on her. The next day, Jenna went to the salon even earlier than she had planned. She called the master in advance to see if there was any free time. Jenna had literally been to this salon several times in her life. Usually, she decided on her own appearance and had her hair and manicure and pedicure done by her own hands. At first, she simply had no money for all these masters. And then, even when Ben was able to go anywhere, the habit of doing everything herself remained. And it has to be said, Jenna was pretty good at it. So there was no need for beauty salons. But the wedding is still a special day, and Jenna dared to trust the hand of the master. They chose a hairstyle together, and the girl began to work on Jenna's hair. Jenna watched the master's hands closely, as if prepared, if anything, in time to stop. For example, if she wanted to cut too much hair. After a couple of minutes, Jenna calmed down a bit, loosened up, and stopped this total control. She decided that the handyman knew her business and didn't need to constantly glare at her. But pretty soon, Jenna had to tense up again. The phone rang in her pocket. At first, she did not want to pick up the phone, not wanting to interrupt the process of the master, especially since the ringing was silent. The ringing stopped. Jenna managed to exhale. But then the phone rang again. "If anything, you can answer it. It won't interfere with our work," said the girl foreman kindly, who also happened to hear those quiet calls. "Okay," replied Jenna, taking the phone out of her pocket and taking the call. "Hello, listening." "Jenna, good afternoon." A gruff, male voice came over the phone, as if it had been specially altered in a computer program. "Who is it?" Without saying hello, Jenna asked. She felt at once that something was wrong. "It is, shall we say, a well-wisher." "A what? I beg your pardon?" "A well-wisher? I want you to have a good life. Stop this circus. Identify yourself immediately." "Calm down, Jenna. There's no need to be angry. My job is to help you, so please listen to me and don't hang up on me. It's for your own happiness. I know what I need to be happy. If you're not going to introduce yourself, I'm hanging up. Have a good day." Jenna thinks she got a call from some scammers and is about to hang up. "Hold on, it's about your wedding," shouted the man into the phone. And it worked. Jenna didn't press the reset button. "Okay, so just speak clearly, quickly, and without the idiotic mystery. Okay, I'll be as direct as possible. You need to call off the wedding immediately because the man you want to marry is not who he says he is." "What the hell are you talking about? Who the hell are you?" "I can't reveal my identity yet because it would make it worse for both of us. Benjamin is a traitor and a traitor. He's been living a double life for years and lying to you like this. Stop it now. On what grounds am I even supposed to believe you? On any basis. I'm telling the truth. And tonight, if you don't call off the wedding, you'll see for yourself. Benjamin will cheat on you right during the celebration. Look, but it's true. It's not even funny. You could have thought of something more believable. All right, fine. You don't have to believe me, but you're going to regret this very much today. Right now, you can still call off the wedding. Right now, you can avoid the embarrassment of tomorrow and the trauma of the rest of your life. Please, trust me on this. How do you even think about this? I have to call off my wedding because some cheater called me and told me some bullshit about my fiancé. But it's still your choice. Yeah, it sounds risky, but trust me, it's worth it. I mean, it's gonna be late tonight. Indelible shame. You have a few hours to think about it. I warned you. That's it. I can't hear it anymore. Goodbye." Jenna ended the call and tossed the phone in front of the mirror. She looked at the girl master. Yes, quietly she continued to work, pretending nothing was going on. But you could see in her eyes that she was a little shocked by what was going on. Jenna urgently needed someone to share her impressions of the call with, so she spoke first. "I don't understand how that's even possible. A stranger calling without introducing herself and trying to upset my wedding. But what is this? There's no mood left. Do not worry," reassured Jenna Master. "The closer any important event, the more unnecessary problems will arise. Maybe it was a secret admirer. Called who does not want you to get married, or, for example, an ex is taking revenge. What are you talking about? Why would I have a secret admirer? In fact, do you know how many years ago my previous relationships ended? I think all the exes have long forgotten me. Could it really be some kind of scammer? Now they're going to call again, demanding money to make the wedding a success. Maybe the scammers, although I've never heard of such sophisticated schemes. Do you know what they are now? Okay, we'll see. The master finished his work, and Jenna went home. The cab she was in was still as thoughtful as the day before. Only this time the cab driver was able to keep his silence for the rest of the ride. Jenna thought about that mysterious call. She carefully chased one thought away, but it came back again and again. It was the thought of Adriana Roberts' involvement in the call. Wasn't this all part of her grand plan? Yesterday to lull her guard, to deflect suspicion from herself, today to launch this nonsense. Jenna had no reason to really suspect Adriana Roberts. She made herself believe that it was just her prejudices and nothing more. For one thing, the scheme is complicated. Adriana Roberts could have come up with something much simpler and more axiomatic. She doesn't need to hire people, break down comedy in a coffee shop to give an ultimatum or talk tough face-to-face with Jenna. And secondly, Adriana Roberts was already very convincing yesterday. Jenna has worked in sales for a very long time and knows pretty well when a person is pretending and when they really like a certain thing, for example. Adriana Roberts, of course, is not a cynical jacket shopper, but the principle is the same. Yesterday, when she was talking about moments from her youth, about Noah Roberts' mother, she had real tears in her eyes. Yes, she was able to hold them back. But Jenna saw those tears, so the fake Adriana Roberts version seemed pretty wild to her. The cab driver drove her home quickly. Jenna arrived with plenty to spare. Ben had just woken up. His mood was good. "You look gorgeous," he said to Jenna, looking at her new hairstyle. "Thank you," thanked Ben Bride and hugged him. She hugged him silently for a few minutes. "Is everything okay, Jenna?" Ben asked, in spite of Jenna's silence. Yes, everything is fine," she answered him. She said in an uncertain tone of voice, worried about the wedding. Ben wasn't convinced by Jenna's words. "A little. Probably more than I should be, though. I get it. I'm nervous, too. I mean, you and I are advanced. For us, it's just a few drops of ink in our passport. Why should we worry about it? We should just think of the wedding as a celebration. Enjoy it." "You make a good point," Jenna said and sighed. "What's wrong with you?" Ben hugged his bride even harder. "It's definitely just the wedding that's bothering you. Nothing else happened. How's Mom?" "She's fine. I had a heart-to-heart talk with her yesterday. She hasn't called again." "No, I don't mean mine. I mean yours. How does she make it to the wedding from the village? How's she doing?" "Mine's doing all right." She wanted to know how you were doing. Unlike Adriana Roberts, Jenna's mom immediately accepted Ben as her own. She had no intention of making any demands on her future son-in-law. She trusted her daughter's choice. Well, that's good. So everyone's going to be here tonight. For the first time in our relationship. Or is that what you're worried about? You could say that. Jenna wasn't exactly lying to Ben. She was, of course, more worried about the call, but she hadn't forgotten about her mom's upcoming meeting with Adriana Jenna either. There was no telling how it might end. Her mother is a simple woman and might say something. Adriana Roberts, if she began to show her temper. One could only hope that yesterday's transformation of Adriana Roberts would spread to the wedding reception, and everything would go quietly and peacefully. To her mother, Jenna was sure she would never provoke a conflict, but she might react. "I think everything will be fine. People are adults, they understand. Daddy will be there, all the more so if anything happens. He'll watch everybody," Ben grinned, alluding to his mom's complicated nature. Yes, that's comforting. The presence of Noah Roberts did indeed give Jenna assurances of a quiet evening. The man had recently demonstrated exceptional wisdom and the ability to resolve difficult conflicts. So on. It will be good then. Why do you have such a sad look in your eyes? Then, Jenna looked intently into her fiance's eyes. Be honest, you're not going to leave me for anyone. What are you doing, Jenna? No, I'm not. Ben was a little taken aback by Jenna's sudden question. And in all the time we've been together, you haven't cheated on me with anyone, you haven't. Look, I'm a little intimidated by your questions. What's wrong? Nothing. Jenna hugged Ben tightly again. If you're so faithful to me, nothing happened. Everything is fine. They sat like that until they left for the registry office. Jenna had the thought of telling Ben about the call, but she didn't dare do it. It looked too silly, and not just from the outside. Jenna herself thought the situation was as stupid as possible. Telling Ben would only spoil his mood, and there had to be at least one person at the wedding who was in a festive mood. Especially, even if you make the most unrealistic assumption and consider that the man who called did not lie, and Ben is really the last scoundrel. He himself will never admit it and will deny everything anyway, so initiating Ben into the mystery call seemed to Jenna on all sides to be the wrong decision. She thought the best thing to do now would be to forget about the call. Yes, getting rid of the intrusive thoughts completely would not work. One way or another, the subject would come up during her celebrations, but it was at least worth trying. Especially right at the wedding, and get to finally make sure that this call is an invention of some scammers. After all, according to their claims, Ben was supposed to change right at the wedding. That seemed to her the most delusional. Of all the flow of information from John Doe, at a wedding, the groom is almost always in plain sight. Why would he cheat right there? Even if Ben were a pathological cheater, why wouldn't he wait a little while? Oh, and how would he know that? Color. Anyway, the more Jenna thought about the call, the more she found it absurd and calmed down. The long-awaited moment of the trip to the registry office came. There everything went modestly, tastefully, and without incident. Jenna and Ben were solemnly declared husband and wife, and they were now on their way to celebrate the wedding at a restaurant. The newlyweds did not engage in cheap pathos and order a limousine. Noah Roberts and Adriana drove them to the place of celebration. At the restaurant, Jenna went to the ladies' room and along with her already established mother-in-law. But Jenna, congratulations again. And once again, I apologize to you. You are now officially part of our extended family, Adriana Roberts graciously said. Thank you. Jenna also graciously replied. No need to apologize. A new page in the history of our relationship has begun. Who's to speak of old times? You know how it is. Wise Jenna. Adriana Roberts pointed it out and walked out into the hall. Jenna, there's just a little bit of makeup left to do. In all the activities in the registry office on the way to the restaurant, she never once remembered the mysterious phone call. Now the conversation with Adriana Roberts reminded Jenna of her unfounded suspicions toward her mother-in-law. Now she was definitely convinced that Adriana Roberts had nothing to do with it. It was all business before business. Jenna stepped into the hall too, and took her seat next to her fiancé. The celebration went smoothly. Jenna's mother quickly found common ground with Adriana, and now they sat together very nicely and discussed the children. The first hour of the celebration passed, and then the second. The waiters had time to bring new bottles of wine and stronger drinks. Despite the high degree of merriment, there was no conflict. The news of the wedding reached Jenna and Ben's more distant relatives. Of course, as Jenna posted a wedding photo on one of the social networking sites. After that, unexpected calls from various friends of the past began. The three siblings of Jenna and Ben only had time to leave the table outside or just in the quiet rooms of the restaurant so that they could hear the caller. At some point, Jenna got tired of it and sat with the phone straight up. And then Ben called again, and he came out from behind the desk. A minute later, Jenna's phone rang. She picked it up, saw another unidentified number, and pressed the call. Hello, Jenna. Do you recognize me? Is it hard to hear? Who is this? I called you this morning and warned you about something, said a gruff male voice. Odd you again. Jenna instantly sobered up. What do you want? I don't want anything anymore. I've done what I could. I warned you. You didn't listen. Now all you have to do is reap the rewards of your mistakes. Cut the crap. Jenna left the table and went to a quieter corner. Can you be tracked down by your phone number? Do you even know about that? Oh, Jenna, you knave girl. And to convince you that I'm not lying, all you have to do is put your hand in your newfound husband's jacket pocket. Anyway, as everyone knows, please call me at this number. All the best." The man hung up. Jenna turned around and walked slowly to the table. Ben still wasn't back. As luck would have it, he'd gone off the phone with his shirt on, and his jacket was still hanging on the chair. Jenna reluctantly sat down in her seat, looked around, and carefully slipped her hand into her pocket. Ben's jacket. There she fumbled for a piece of paper. Jenna looked around again and pulled it out. It was neatly rolled up several times and smelled of perfume. Jenna put her hands under the table and, trying to keep a nonchalant expression on her face, unfolded the piece of paper. Then she peered down carefully and tried to read the contents. It turned out to be a note. The author of the note had written out only a few words in a good handwriting. At 7:00 p.m. in the small banquet room. Waiting. Jenna looked at her watch. It showed 6:55. Jenna wasn't quite sure what was going on at all. It all seemed like some kind of idiotic prank. Maybe someone really was playing a joke on me. Jenna comforted herself. But Ben knew how much I hated pranks. Oh, I don't like all this. Oh, I don't like it. Jenna got up from the table and walked around the room. She knew there were 2 banquet rooms in this restaurant. The note probably referred to just the second small banquet room. Jenna didn't immediately decide to head there. After all, it was already very much like some kind of joke. Maybe she shouldn't fall for it then. But on the other hand, since someone with a bad sense of humor had decided to make the wedding more fun, why not play along with Ben, for example? Jenna was left with the hope that she just couldn't find that small banquet hall. But no, sighting stopped traitorously. It was near the sign for the small banquet hall. She glanced again at her watch. It just took her 5 minutes to think about it. Then Jenna gently opened the door and peeked inside. The hall was in working order. There were chairs on the tables and decorations lying on the floor. To one of these decorations, some girl, most likely a waitress, was passionately pinning Jenna's husband. Jenna's pole. "That's it. That's enough." Ben muttered quietly, barely moving his tongue. Jenna silently watched everything that was going on. "Oh, so there you are." Adriana Roberts' happy voice came over. "We've been looking all over the restaurant for you. It's like a wedding without the newlyweds." The woman didn't have time to finish her sentence. Jenna turned around and quickly ran for the exit. Adriana Roberts tried to catch up with her. Ben finally realized he'd been spotted. He jumped up, but only managed to walk a few steps and collapsed. Jenna and Adriana Roberts stopped at the door of the restaurant. "Jenna, my girl, I beg you, wait." Her mother-in-law coaxed her. "Don't, please don't. You were right. Then I have no place in your family. Stop it. What are you saying?" "What am I saying? Why don't you ask your son? What a fool I was. What a fool. How long has he been leading me astray? Wait, give me a minute. I can imagine how you're feeling right now, but I'm just as confused as you are. I don't think we should jump to conclusions. Adriana Roberts, I understand your desire to protect your son, but what conclusions can there be? You saw it yourself, didn't you?" "I did, but that doesn't sound at all like my son. Let's do this. You give Noah and me at least half a day. Now you promise me that in that half a day you won't do anything stupid and you won't run away. Ben, we'll take you back to our place. You've seen the state he's in. Okay, well, what will change in that time? I don't know, but at least we'll try to figure it out. What shame? Don't worry about it. There's no shame yet, except for you and me Ben hasn't seen. I'll go back and tell the guests that the newlyweds got tired of sitting here and went home to celebrate in private. Ben, we'll try to steal away unnoticed. Then you go on home. But again, please don't do anything stupid." "I'll try," Jenna said. She turned around and walked toward the house in her wedding dress. "Where on earth did you stop her?" "Adriana Roberts, let me call you a cab." Her mother-in-law called Jenna a cab and sent her home. Jenna got home in a semi-conscious state. For her, everything that was happening was some kind of nightmare that wouldn't end. She collapsed on the couch and sighed heavily. Jenna stared silently at the ceiling, tears streaming from her eyes. She didn't even have the strength to change her clothes. She lay there for hours until the doorbell rang and she was awakened. Jenna didn't want to go to the door. She didn't want to do anything at all. But the calls didn't stop. So Jenna forced herself to get up and open the door. Adriana Roberts and Noah Roberts entered the apartment. "Jenna, is your laptop around?" Without speaking, the father-in-law asked. It was lying around here somewhere. Jenna opened the laptop and handed it to Noah Roberts. "Great. Now you'll see that the father-in-law inserted a small flash drive into the laptop and turned on the video." It turned out to be security footage of the restaurant. It shows Ben standing and talking on the phone. At some point he gets sick. He leans against the wall and tries to walk to the exit to the street. Then a waitress stops him and asks him to walk with her. She actually coaches him to an empty banquet, strings him up, and puts him on the set. Then the waitress stands at the front door and starts looking somewhere, then into the next room, then into her phone. After reading some message on her phone, she stands by the door for a few more minutes and then walks over to Ben. Ben makes an awkward movement, tries to push her away, and mutters something to himself. Then the waitress forcefully tries to kiss him. At the same moment, Jenna walks into the hall. "So that's what this is about," Jenna says with goggling eyes. "I told you we'll figure it out." Adriana Roberts summed up the video. "Wait, so Ben was drugged. How's he doing now? We should call the police, have them run forensics. I don't think we're gonna need the police here." Noah Roberts answered her. "Ben, he's crumbling at our house right now. His pulse is normal. His blood pressure's fine too. He needs to get some sleep. And I did the examination personally, just took Ben's glass in my hands. It's a blend. I didn't mistake ordinary wine and vodka for anything." Jenna was surprised. "It's not like we even ordered it." "Well, here's some waiter diligently pouring Ben not plain wine, but exactly with vodka. I looked at your place, it was regular wine. And Ben himself, you know, he's not much of a drinker. Wine and beer, he's fine. What's stronger? The body can't take it." Apparently, the organizers of this performance did not know about this reaction. Ben thought that he would just get tipsy and fall for some girl. But our fighter fell before his time. Fantastic. Jenna couldn't get over the shock. Right. Didn't the camera show exactly who the wine and vodka were mixed in with? No, they didn't have cameras in the kitchen. There's one by the bar, but there's footage. Couldn't, even barely begged the security guard directly in the hall for the wine. Ben's glass was poured by the same waitress. "So we have to talk to this waitress." Jenna hissed. "We should. It's not quite clear how they calculated that you walk up to the other room at exactly the right time." "No, it's pretty clear." Jenna told her mother-in-law about the 2 mysterious phone calls and the note. "Look, but this is some kind of movie." Adriana Roberts wondered. "Why didn't you tell Ben everything right away? I didn't think it was that serious. I thought it was just some scam. I didn't want to spoil Ben's mood over nothing." "Yes," sighed Adriana Roberts. "I wonder what his reaction will be when he wakes up. I don't think it will be anytime soon," answered Noah Roberts, already unaware of some of the peculiarities of his body. "He won't recover until tomorrow morning." "What are we going to do then?" Jenna asked, confused. "All right, I suggest we finish what we started. Call your mysterious admirer. Tell him you were wrong and made sure of what a cheater Ben was. Thank him and offer to meet him, preferably right away. Got it." Jenna pulled out her phone and did everything Noah Roberts told her to do. The meeting was set for half an hour later in a nearby square. Adriana Roberts and Noah Roberts arrived there a little early, pretending to be a couple who decided to take a walk before going to bed. Jenna changed her clothes and went to the square too. 2 minutes before the appointed time, she saw a male silhouette walking briskly toward her. The stranger had his cap on low. It was impossible to tell who it was from afar. "But Jenna, why didn't you want to give me your phone that time? You wouldn't have learned so much," the man said cheerfully and took off his cap. "So that's you," Jenna exclaimed. Her former classmate Alex James was standing in front of her. "I don't know how they can't thank you." "Oh, really? It's enough to go on a date with me. And how did you find out all this information about Ben?" Well, the connection with the waitress at the restaurant where you work, and who can put vodka in the wine on time. What Alex didn't get a chance to say before he got a firm slap in the face. It used to be just an undecided defect, but now it's gotten even meaner and more pathetic. Didn't wait for Jenna and her father-in-law and mother-in-law to come over. What so it is the organizer of the performance? Asked Noah Roberts. I see. But I think he could be prosecuted for slander. What if the acts with the drinks qualify as personal injury? Oh, I'm afraid you won't get away with probation. Jenna, I'm sorry, Alex said in a pitiful voice. I just loved you all these years. I can't stand to see you. You bastard. Jenna turned away and looked at Noah Roberts and Adriana Roberts. But Jenna, I think this man's fate is in your hands, calmly said her mother-in-law. What am I supposed to do with him? Jenna sighed and turned Jenna around again. Then so get out of here. But if I ever see you anywhere again, even accidentally, we'll pursue a criminal case. Do you understand? Yes, Alex obediently replied. He turned around and walked briskly in the direction of the exit. Noah Roberts. Viktorovna took Jenna back to her family cottage. They spent half the night talking in the kitchen and making fun of the day gone by. As it turned out, the other guests at the wedding guessed nothing and continued to celebrate without the bride and groom. Ben woke up the next day with a terrible hangover and huge memory lapses. He didn't even remember any of the waitresses. Jenna and her mother-in-law and mother-in-law decided not to tell him anything. So unusually began the new family page of modest girl Jenna's life.